It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley. As we begin a Monday, Gary, how are you?
Well, you know, I'm sitting there thinking of all the hype and the BS that was thrown out for Friday night. You know, and when we talk about my father saying that you're going to find out that people want to be BS'd. The Mike Tyson fight was one of the purest examples of the sheep. It just, let's watch a 58-year-old Mike Tyson go at it.
I think if you already had a Netflix subscription, it's probably worth watching more than any other thing on Netflix right now.
Well, I thought the hype,
because the pay-per-view wouldn't have done anything close to that.
Yeah. I thought the hype for me was like when Taylor Swift endorsed Harris.
Yeah,
you know, that's the kind of hype. And the thing is, afterwards, and it's like for me, I'm like, I've been so busy with the election. I'm like, who's this Jake Paul guy? Is that Ron Paul's grandson who's the real libertarian? Oh, no. Okay, the YouTube star boxer. Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
But, I mean, everybody that I know who watched it was disappointed with it. Well, I can't believe it.
It was an exhibition. It was going nowhere.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, for example.
I think people, Rogan talks about how wide his desk is, and the reason is because of Mike Tyson. He said, the reason I made this desk my subject of that I interview, my guest sits so far apart from me because of Mike Tyson. And he didn't go into all the details, but basically making the point that Mike Tyson is highly unpredictable. I think that's what people tuned into. People tuned into, well, is he going to just tear his gloves off and start eating the face of Jake? Is it going to happen that way? Because I think that's really, it was like, because if you look at his record going back to when he retired, 20-something years ago, 20 years ago, whatever it was, his record was diminishing. He even came out at the end and said, yeah, I apologize. My heart's not in this anymore. And that's when he retired. Well, 20 years later, it's not just going to be renewed again. It's not just going to happen again. And I think people tuned in to see, okay, is he going to go bat soup crazy?
Sort of like they turn into Red Eye.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, look, there was already yesterday, the two best football teams in the land met yesterday, late yesterday afternoon. There was a lot of hype about that, and in the end, the Toronto Argonauts beat the Winnipeg Blue Bombers for the Grey Cup.
There you go. Congratulations to whatever team you just mentioned. I wasn't paying attention. After you said Toronto, I tuned out.
The Toronto Argos and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Yeah. Toronto winning the Super Bowl of Canada. Right. Besides that, there was no other football games.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing with the Tyson fight on Friday should have been obvious. They promoted that the gloves were made of marshmallows. Literally made of marshmallows. Yeah, it was like the most boring fight ever. It's like I didn't tune in. What I loved watching was I wasn't even watching, and I have Netflix. I just tuned on X. Somebody actually wrote that the fight is playing out better on X than it is on, and I never turned on Netflix. I was sitting next to my TV, didn't even bother to turn the TV on. And I'm just following everybody on X and, and all the comments and everything else. And it was just funny. I just thought it was hilarious. I don't remember, I was telling the guys and our production crew last week, I don't remember the last time I actually went out of my way to watch a boxing match. I can't remember what that would have been. I mean, easily 20, 30, maybe 40 years ago.
I can tell you.
Yeah. You can tell me what I watched?
No, when I watched, and it would have been Tyson at his prime, I'm going to guess late 80s, when I was still club DJing, and we would have to shut down the club when Tyson fought.
Oh.
But I remember the one time doing it, but it was one of the 8-second fights. It was like the place was mobbed. It was, okay, it's over.
Yeah.
So that was the last time. Now, when I was younger, with Cassius Clay, and he was Cassius Clay when I was watching
70s,
Cassius Clay. And,
it was it's 70s, I'd say up to the mid-80s. Yeah. It was an event. It was truly, because it was a television event. They hadn't, really gotten into the pay-per-view thing, so they made it a big deal. And those networks, they promoted the daylights out of it. I mean, it was everywhere. You could, that's I think that's what made that sport so big is network television really grasping onto it. When it went to pay-per-view, I was like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what those numbers would have been. If you had to pay one price only to watch that fight on Friday night, I don't know.
I had a few people asking me, you going to subscribe to Netflix for a month? And I don't think so. No.
I subscribed to Netflix and was sitting next to my TV while the fight was on and didn't turn it on.
So the last time, really, because I remember when Sugar Ray Leonard, I believe it was like 1980, was supposed to fight in Buffalo, and I was living in Buffalo at the time, and I was thinking of going, but then he had the eye problem, and basically he was done at that point. The match never took place.
Right.
I can't remember. The fight never took place. I don't know who he was up against, but I just remember that. And then really since that, I just haven't paid attention. And the mixed martial arts, UFC, I don't care.
I never caught on to that. I just haven't. And it's just not, I don't want to see a couple of guys in their underwear fighting. It's not my thing.
I got to find. It was a liberal writer talking about Trump at Madison Square Garden for the fight the other night, the UFC fight. And it was like, it's reminiscent of the gladiators coming in with Trump and the emperors.
Yeah.
And it's like, shut up.
Shut up.
It was
What happened to the Nazi thing, guys?
Well, it's still there. They're not backing off on. They're not really backing off on anything. I want to play one audio cut here because you saw. Was it yesterday or the day before? Over the weekend, the story came out about the Pentagon filling in audit.
Yeah.
And so this is interesting, and I just happened to come upon this. This is Jon Stewart, and they must have done this after that came out because Stewart's talking to the Democratic deputy. She's a Democrat, Deputy Defense Secretary Kathleen Hicks about this. And just listen. I mean, it's beautiful. And it's this is number one has to be the COVID with Stewart when he was on Colbert.
Yeah.
That was number one. To me, this is number two. Here we go. All right, here we go.
To be doing. There is a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse within a system.
Audits and waste, fraud, and abuse are not the same thing. So let's decompose these
please
pieces
educate me on
Sure.
What
so an audit is
difference.
Exactly what you just described,
Yes.
which is, do I know what was delivered to which place?
Right.
The ability to pass an audit or the fact that the DOD has not passed an audit is not suggestive of waste, fraud, and abuse. That is completely false right there. So
what is
now
it
it's a question of it's suggestive that we don't have an accurate inventory that we can pull up of what we have where. That is not the same as saying we can't do that because waste, fraud, and abuse has occurred.
So in my world,
Yeah.
that's waste.
How is that waste?
If I give you $1 billion and you can't tell me what happened to it, that to me is wasteful. That means you are not responsible. But if you can't tell me where it went, then what am I supposed to think? And when there has been reporting, I mean, this is not, look, I'm not saying this is on you and that you caused this, but I think it's a tough argument to
I'm pretty
make
sure I
that
didn't cause it.
an $850 billion budget to an organization that can't pass an audit and tell you where that money went, I think most people would consider that somewhere in the realm of waste, fraud, or abuse. Because
we'll get more of it later on, but I mean, it's just her arrogance in defending it.
Well, she lined out why.
Right out.
And then said it's not.
Oh.
Wow. Yeah.
Elon Musk and
Just because I
Ramaswamy are going
can't
to have
find the
some
money
fun
doesn't
here.
mean it's lost.
Elon Musk and Ramaswamy going to have some fun here.
Yeah, no doubt.
Oh, and a couple of great picks, I think, for the president over the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Brendan Carr for FCC.
Yeah.
What's his name? Right, the fracking CEO for Department of Energy.
Right.
Beautiful.
Right. Oh, what was it that Ajit Pai said? Former FCC had. It was apparently during the fight because he had a screenshot of his Netflix, I guess, throttling his network service.
Oh,
Oh man, what was it? What was the thing called they were trying to pass when they wanted to essentially get equal internet service provided for everyone, so certain accounts wouldn't be throttled. And he says, "I changed my mind. I'm for it," because it was throttling during the fight or before the fight, I guess. Oh my gosh, it was so funny. Yeah, Brendan Carr. I think that's a good pick. I liked Ajit Pai in that role. Very free market, open minded.
net neutrality.
Net neutrality. Yeah. He said I changed my mind. 180 on net neutrality. I was wrong. And it is. But you look at it. And not just because of what we do, but the FCC, again, over the years has become this heavy-handed, department. Remember when back in the day, you and I were it was still the case when we got into radio that you had to get an FCC license. You know how you got the FCC license? You just signed something and sent it off to the FCC, and I still have mine. And it really meant nothing.
The third class, right?
Yeah.
The third class.
Yeah. But I didn't, I still have my card just so I'd remember when I started radio because it's getting longer and longer. But, I just don't, again, if we can get in and I think Ajit Pai was part of that, I'm all for this when it comes to all the departments, Department of Education, EPA, and all the departments becoming rolling back what some of the Obama era really started in full steam. They really started going after the EPA, started going after land grabs and control over people's property, your own property. And how there would be a runoff of water from your property, and all of that had to be managed, and they had access to it because they were the EPA. How dare you? All of these heavy-handed moves in the last couple of decades, all of those have to be rolled back. They truly have to be rolled back, and the Supreme Court may have something to say about that, but hopefully we'll get to that point. In the next few years, so we can set a new tone permanently. But I think Brendan Carr will be good at the FCC.
Well, the new term that has come up is disruptor.
Yeah. Right. Yes.
That we need disruptors who can still run the department.
Right. Right.
Because that's the one thing. How do you get rid of the task for this president? And again, he's got 4 years to do it. Is that enough? Nobody knows.
Right.
Because how do you take the rot that is so embedded in so many of the institutions out there? I look at somebody like Hegseth, who is, this is what needs to change, and it needs to change now. Mm-hmm. From being in the military. Boom, 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 boom. Here's what we need to do, and here's what we need to go at this particular point here, and here. Now, they also talk about, some of the criticism of him. Yeah, but we need somebody who's run been in management and run a big institution. Not necessarily so.
Right.
I don't necessarily agree with that, especially when you talk about the fact that you have a lot of help. You know what your basic outline is, as a Secretary of Defense. And it was, like I said, when he was first put in there, was like, well, he has no intense experience in the management of the military. And the first thing that came up was, neither did Robert McNamara.
Right.
It was like, I don't know if you want to use him as an example, though, especially after Vietnam.
Well.
But I don't think that's necessarily that you have to have it. You have people in there. I think it's more of your ideology, which is the problem. I look at it, and the real problem I have with anybody, like when we've said it the other day, is RFK Jr.
Yeah,
and a couple things over the weekend. It was like, well, look, he could still have a place. He could consult the FDA. If you want to get into talking about food, okay, let him in charge of. Let's investigate food additives and what's out there, being the head of an investigative agency that does that, for the FDA.
Right.
But to put him in charge of Medicare and Medicaid when he has, without question, his entire life until he started supporting Trump, all of a sudden now, isn't really talking about nationalized health care or abortion till birth, even though that's been his lifelong opinion on a ton of different things, and his statements. I saw the statement the other day in quotes that all vaccines, he believes, are quite ineffective. You can't say that. Say that about polio and smallpox.
Right.
You can't do it. I agree with a lot of the stuff. There's the thing. You can agree with somebody, say, I agree with him there. But he is, you need somebody who is a disruptor, because you have to change the rot inside of Medicare and Medicaid. I don't believe he's the guy to do that. He's the guy to sit there and say, okay, let's go after this, or let's look at this, or let's consult this. To me, if Trump did something like he did with Ramaswamy for him, I want you to head this organization to do this.
Yeah.
And it could be pseudo-government, private sector, whatever, to look at all these things, yes. And by the way, you can look at the Kennedy assassination too.
Yeah, right, sure.
But to put him in charge of Medicare and Medicaid, knowing what his lifelong ambitions are, absolutely not. 866-90-RED-EYE.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. Cold temperatures and water can lead to only one outcome, and ice has no place in a truck's air system. That's why you must keep your air system moisture-free as the temperatures begin to drop. A simple step toward keeping your air system moisture-free is manually draining the air tanks. You should drain your air tanks more frequently if your vehicle has a high air demand. Moisture that is not removed by the dryer must be manually drained from the tanks. Pay attention to how much water and contaminants drain out. Too much water indicates the air dryer isn't working properly, and too much oil may indicate that the air compressor is worn. Make sure your air system is in top condition before plunging temperatures put it to the test.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. It's really interesting that everything I see from the Democrats is they're doubling down on everything, whether it's Adam Schiff still saying that Russia collusion existed with Trump, or Jen Psaki over the weekend talking about the fact that really the trans athlete, it's not even an issue out there. John Oliver.
My gosh.
I was playing that audio. I can't play it on the air because he was cursing F word left and right. There's no evidence at all, that men are superior athletically to women. I mean, it's like they're just all doubling, tripling, quadrupling down.
Yeah.
And as I said before, it's the only thing they know. There's no other place to go.
Right. No, I mean, they don't know of any, for them, that's their reality. And they're going to fight for what they think is real, even though they live in a delusional place. It's, with Oliver, to Oliver's point, I mean, are you even paying attention to any science, to the history of sports?
I know. And angrier.
Yes, they got to be angrier.
Taking the level of, okay, I just wasn't angry enough to convince people.
Exactly. I got to get angrier, right.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Oh, Democrats want to cheat. This from Fox News over the weekend. This is actually a pretty big story. The Washington Post wrote about it and went after Democrats. The Associated Press has called the race in Pennsylvania for Republican Senate-elect Dave McCormick, who currently holds a 26,000-vote lead over incumbent Democratic Senator Bob Casey. But Casey has refused to concede and insisted that every vote be counted. The close margin within 1 percentage point triggered an automatic recount under Pennsylvania law. Yet the critical question is what votes should be counted. Now, here we go. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court ruled before the election that mail ballots lacking formally required signatures or dates should not be included in the official results. However, Democratic officials in Philadelphia and surrounding Bucks Center and Montgomery counties are ignoring that court order. Here's Bucks County Commissioner Diane Ellis Marsaglia, a Democrat. Here's what she said. Ready? Here we go.
All right.
This is a quote. I think we all know that precedent by a court doesn't matter anymore in this country. Do I have to go any further?
Nope.
I think we all know that precedent by a court doesn't matter anymore in this country, she said, as she and other Democrats voted to reject a GOP-led challenge to the ballots that should be disqualified based on the Pennsylvania Supreme Court law. Then she said, people violate laws anytime they want. So for me, if I violate this law, it's because I want the court to pay attention. There's nothing more important than counting votes. End of quote.
Yeah. That's evident in the entire Democratic Party. And with Democrats, they don't care about what the courts say. I mean, look at Jack Smith. The Supreme Court says something. Yeah, but. I mean, Jack Smith just keeps throwing things until, of course, Trump gets elected. All of these things point to, again, well, we don't care. Great. If the court says something, this isn't the first time. At least, though, someone is saying it in the Democratic Party. We all know that whatever court decision comes down, that doesn't mean anything. Court decisions aren't binding. Wow.
Washington Post editorial board titled, Democrats Thumb Their Nose at the Rule of Law in Pennsylvania. Election laws and rules must be applied equally and consistently. Mm-hmm. Democrats would surely protest if a Republican commissioner made the same statement as Democrats to justify tipping the scales for their party's Senate nominee, and they would be right, the editorial board of the Washington Post said. Elections need rules established in advance of the voting, and those rules must be applied equally and consistently. So the Washington Post agrees with Florida 2000.
Right. I guess.
The op-ed also predicted that the votes will almost certainly be overturned on appeal, but the mere attempt to defy judicial rulings is corrosive to democracy and invites similar behavior in future elections. Hear what she said? I care less about breaking the law.
Exactly.
Pennsylvania Supreme Court, by the way, includes 5 justices elected in partisan elections as Democrats and just 2 elected as Republicans, the editorial board noted. Even if that partisan balance were reversed, however, the court's authority would be equally legitimate. Is this written by Jeff Bezos? The op-ed also flatly states that Casey almost certainly lost the race and called for Democrats to accept the loss gracefully, especially if they want to continue claiming theirs is the party of democracy.
Right.
Well, okay, Bezos didn't write this thing.
Yeah.
It's like, stop it.
Yeah, you lost me at the end there.
Yeah. State law entitles Mr. Casey to a statewide recount because Mr. McCormick's margin of victory is smaller than half a percentage point, though not much. A recount is unlikely to change that outcome. So there you go. So, like I said, Democrats blatantly, no, we can steal the election. We want to steal the election. Court precedent doesn't mean anything.
Look, if the laws don't matter, if the courts don't matter.
Wow.
You know, and so I guess if the courts and laws don't matter, then let's just say, for the sake of the argument, through a recount, Bob Casey won. Well, the laws that he helped create won't matter, will they? Oh, you just walked into another brick wall. Damn. Don't you hate when that happens? Yeah, but no, what I mean is, what I meant to say was, just because we can't find the money and tell you where it is, doesn't mean it's unaccounted for. What the hell? Is this a cartoon?
It might be out there somewhere. We just can't find it.
Listen, it doesn't mean, just because we can't find something doesn't mean it's lost. It is exactly like raising teenagers. I've said this for a long time. It's exactly like that. Just because you, Mom and Dad, put a $20,000 limit on my credit card spending doesn't mean I'm going to spend $20,000.
Oh, God, remember that. Is that Obama who said that?
Just because we raise the cap doesn't mean we're going to spend to that much. Oh, my God.
Did we spend it?
Yes.
And more?
Yes.
So Obama was wrong again?
Back before, long before we were at 36 trillion.
I got an email a couple weeks ago because I was, going after Obama. It's like, you really have something against him. I have nothing against him. Like anybody. I'm against the BS that was out from Hope and Change and the fact that this guy was the smartest guy in the world. That was promoted by the Democratic Party as one of the reasons to vote for him. We simply list the idiotic things that he believes, and then you can judge it.
Yep.
Yep. But no, I have nothing.
I don't know the guy personally.
Yeah, don't know any of these people.
Nope.
We're
They're
simply
public servants. They work for us, and they're always going to be scrutinized to the nth. Period.
We care where you stand on the issues.
Yep.
And now too, it's like that's what we, that's what we care about. And when you look at, okay, let's realistically look, now because Trump's going to be head of the executive branch, where do we go from this point on? But everything that we believe is based on the issues.
Yeah,
Nothing is based on anything personal.
Right.
I don't look at anybody and go, well, except for Schiff, and say I hate them. I'm kidding. I don't hate anybody.
Well, he's a wholly dishonest person.
Oh,
so
yeah.
It's hard to find
he's
any respect for him.
He's a pathological liar. The thing is, you don't have to throw out those names. You don't have to throw out any names at them because what they have stated and what reality showed. The people of California didn't care.
No, they
didn't care that Adam Schiff lied to them. They want that line in there. And so you still have a significant portion when you see, because people look at it and go, what do you say? What do you see in this election? I see the fact that Trump won, and that's a good thing. And there's a pause on lawfare, and there's a pause on the insanity of the Democrats. But Trump, I think, is 76.4 million. She's at 73 something, 73.7, I think.
Yeah.
Last that I checked. 73. Think about how close that race is. It'll be separated by roughly 2 million votes with Trump winning the popular vote, and it's great. And like I said, great electoral college win. But the fact is, you have half this nation and half the voters that want insanity. They want it.
Right.
You and I look at California. Look at all the different. We talked about this last week, and I saw more over the weekend. Here's California. They're voting on these propositions if they're conservatives, and they're voting for people for office that are against, what they agree with in these propositions, which are trying to get rid of the woke crap and the insanity of what the politicians are promoting in California. Yet they vote those same people back in again.
Well, I mean,
not the district attorneys,
right?
They took it, but on the federal level,
yeah.
I'm talking about more on the federal level.
Right.
They want to put those people in that will do exactly what they're trying to vote out of California. How do you make sense of that?
I don't. It's impossible. We talked about the split ticket when we started seeing numbers on the down ballot before the election. And it's like, we don't get that. You want one person to lead the executive branch. You want a totally different culture in the legislative branch. I really don't understand that at all. You want to give him the office, but you don't want to give him the power to do things that you want him clearly to do.
Right. Which
gets back to okay, can we start with this? Let's back up. And can you name the three branches of government? And those are, but like with California, how they voted over the years. Twice they voted down gay marriage, and now the LGBTQHQ. I mean, they're the center of it, and that's something that takes a second.
LGBTQHQ. I'm sorry. That got to me.
Takes a second. That one has to steep.
That was good.
But he
saw me bow my head. He's like, okay, is Gary all right over there? I wasn't laughing out loud, but it was like, oh, my. That was good.
But and we see it, you see it time and time again. And they just can't bring themselves to vote for the right. Look, all of our roughly whatever at least in that Senate race in California, those that supported Steve Garvey, 40%. We know you're there. We don't forget about you. We know. Keep up the good fight. And Texas is great, by the way. We can make room for you. We got lots of room.
There is a little bit of room left.
Yeah, still.
There's a tiny bit of room left in Texas,
going so quickly,
but not a lot. I mean, there's only, let me see, between West Fort Worth and El Paso.
Yeah,
there's only roughly 1,500 miles of barren stuff.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not sure how far it is exactly.
I
don't know.
It's something like that.
Somebody's gonna correct me. That's more than 1,500.
Yeah. You might have to move some cows, but there's room. We'll make some room for you. It's crazy how much of the land. I mean, you want to talk about land being bought up in big, big chunks. Well, Bezos, for
603 miles.
Yeah. Bezos has bought up, of course, a lot for his rocket company, his space company. And I believe his lair that he's building underground in the hill country.
Number 2.
he's got a hairless cat. It's going to happen. Just wait for it. But there's he puts his pinky to his mouth. $1 trillion. It's but it is. We do have some space for those of you in California that want to come out. I will say this. It's hard to put your finger on the pulse. Look, AOC. In the days after the election, I'm talking to people. I'm listening to the people in my district that were, did the split ticket thing. I love the fact that Trump was able to get so many votes in areas where he had not gotten them before, and where the GOP cannot make any progress before. I think now you look at it and then you got to break it down and say, okay, was that just a moment? Is this a permanent change? Is this momentum going the opposite direction? And how do you convince people on the split ticket thing? I don't. The only thing I can come up with is the fact that so many people don't fully understand the three branches of government and how it all works.
Well, we know that from the polls.
Yep. And so that's the only reason I can give you that makes sense right now. Maybe if AOC will share some of the feedback she gets. She's listening, but I
mentioned that Friday that the Democrats are saying, well, maybe AOC is the future of the party.
Yeah.
Oh,
probably.
Geez.
Well, I don't know. I mean, she might be the future of their party, but
okay.
I don't know if that's a good thing for them.
866-90 Red Eye.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Best real headline I read over the weekend, though, was actually from the Telegraph UK. Trump gives RFK Jr. McDonald's poison to eat on private plane.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you saw that story that RFK Jr. was complaining about the campaign food.
Oh, yeah.
He said it's always bad, but man, this time around it's like pretty much McDonald's, But I mean, that's what you get. I mean, you have to know that's Trump's favorite. That's what you're going to get unless you bring your own.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thank you for being here this morning. We talked about a couple of the picks that the president made over the weekend for the Department of Energy, which we think is a real good call. What was the other one?
FCC?
FCC, yeah. Both great calls. But running into problems with, right now, Pete Haig said this, the biggest problem that they have, the most immediate. Mm-hmm. And it's not based on it's not just based on the allegation. It's based on what his own lawyer has said for his defense.
Right. Right.
And that's the problem that he has. He was investigated for an alleged sexual assault in 2017. No charges were filed. The alleged assault took place on October 8th, 2017, at the Hyatt Regency Monterey Hotel and Spa. His lawyer said he was at a party, but wherever was a Republican get together, and his lawyer's saying he was drunk. He was as drunk as could be, and she was sober, and she took advantage of him by taking him back to the room. And the police, he says, is from the lawyer, wouldn't file charges after looking at the tape. Now, police have given no further details. They said they investigated the sexual assault. No weapons were involved, according to the statement, but there were injuries. Contusions to right thigh. No further details were released, and the city said it would not release a full police report, noting it was exempt from public disclosure. The statement did not say what happened to the investigation. Now, then the lawyer came out and said that, and told the Washington Post that Hegseth paid her. There was a settlement for her silence on it because he was afraid. He paid an undisclosed amount of money because he feared the allegation getting out would result in his immediate termination from Fox. Look, I don't know. I think you said it during the break. You said, look, I don't know what happened here. When you look at, I saw the Federalist.com talking about the DOJ investigation into Matt Gaetz, and said that the woman wasn't reliable. Well, all you're doing is you're saying that, but you're not talking about the current ethics committee that wishes to release stuff. And when I saw Mike Johnson say, okay, we're not going to release this, you've got two sets of allegations. One, though, the Hegseth is worse, so because of what his lawyer used as his defense.
Right.
His defense, if that's the defense. And the problem is not that he couldn't be great at the Department of Defense. Can you get through? You cannot adjudicate this during the nomination process.
Well, if Hegseth is innocent of these allegations, then I would expect him to fight. That fight shouldn't be taking place during the nomination process. Same with Matt Gaetz. If he's innocent of these allegations, then he absolutely should fight to clear his name. But again, this turns into a trial in both cases. During the nomination process becomes a trial, and it starts in the media, which it already did. And I hate this for anybody who is innocent, but again, that's something that you have to clear in terms of your name. You have to clear that on your own. That's just simply how it works. I don't expect the nomination process to go well in either case because it will be relentless over and over again. And then the source story at CNN over the weekend that Susie Wiles actually got on the phone at some point with Hegseth and said, is there anything else we need to know about? And the story implies, again, it's a source story, and I don't trust anything from CNN. I don't trust anything from anybody right now.
Right.
But, and this is where I started, with the question mark on this story, was they claim there's been no internal vetting of Hegseth. That is almost impossible to believe. If that's the case, that's on everybody in the transition team. You're going to have to work really hard to make me actually believe that. But according to the sources, again, Susie Wiles says to Hegseth, she got on the phone with him, is there anything else we need to know about? What concerns me is not just the allegations and the fact that this will turn into trials for both Hegseth and for Matt Gaetz. It's also what might, rise to the surface, which, again, if accurate and true, is what Susie Wiles would be getting at. Okay, there might be others who make a claim between now and the hearing for any of those two, either of those two nominees. And that becomes even more problematic. Because there is no doubt that the left wants to create the chaos. That's what they do. And they want to do it more for Trump than they ever have because he won in such a decisive way. So you start by going after two of his picks in a way that, again, turns it into a trial for both of them. I don't know what is true. I don't know what is accurate. I can't tell you. All I can tell you is the nomination process shouldn't be turned into a trial.
Well, the difference between the Gaetz and the Hegseth is what the lawyer has said for Hegseth doesn't look good from the defense point of view. You're like, we don't need this. We don't need this. Because then, when you read the Daily Mail UK, it said Hegseth paid her an undisclosed amount because he feared the allegation getting out would result in his immediate termination from Fox. His lawyer said Hegseth was drunk and claimed the woman was the aggressor in the encounter, which the police did not agree with. The complaint from an unnamed woman with extensive knowledge of the alleged rape allegation that was sent to Trump's staff explained the story police were told at the time. Hegseth was a speaker at the California Federation of Republican Women Conference the day of the alleged assault. He joined other guests at the hotel bar afterwards, along with the woman who was staying at the hotel with her husband and young children. Part of her job for the conference was to make sure Hegseth got out of bed the next morning in time to catch his flight home. At some point that night, she got texts from two other women at the bar saying Hegseth was getting pushy about his interest in taking them upstairs to his room. It was claimed she allegedly came over and talked to them, and when they left, she remembered sensing Hegseth was irritated. The memo sent by the other women claimed she didn't remember anything until she was in Hegseth's hotel room and then stumbled to find her hotel room 6 to 9 hours after intervening in Hegseth. Flirting with other women were very hazy, the memo claimed. The 6 to 9 hours. When she returned home, she had a moment of hazy memory of being raped the night before and had a panic attack. That's when she went to the ER and had a rape kit taken that was positive for semen. So, again, that's the memo sent to the Republicans from another woman, apparently with knowledge of what happened that night.
Right.
none of this is good. When you combine it with what the lawyer's defense was, when I saw the lawyer's defense, I said, oh, boy, this could be over.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. And a settlement. Because if any of that is accurate and true, that he wanted to protect himself from and be able to keep his job at Fox News,
right? Then,
of course, that applies here. You can't have a trial. It is a vetting process, but that vetting starts internally from the transition team. And always should. There should be, it's got to be to the core. How you weed out the rot from the DOJ. Wow. I can't tell you. That's like looking at a field of weeds that's as big as Texas saying, how do you get them all? I really don't know. But in the case of Matt Gaetz, it's going to turn into a trial. I expect each of these individuals or anyone who is innocent of charges against them or allegations against them to fight to protect their name. That place for the fight is not the nomination process.
But you know what it also brings out, because I don't think it would have been an issue at all, is the whole RFK non-sexual affair.
Yeah. Right.
Well, that's what he's claiming.
Right.
And I know somebody's saying a Kennedy non-sexual affair, really?
Right.
But, and that whole thing, all of a sudden, that which seemed to fade away now comes back. And then I can hear the Democrats. This is the kind of people that Trump hires.
Yeah. Right.
And so do you need this?
Well, do you want this to be, because it is, it will be the story as we get, past the first of the year and everything else, if these nominees are still in place. These are the stories then. Instead of the change to be implemented to fix everything that's broken.
Right. And you can't have a trial during the nomination process of multiple candidates.
You can't.
866-98-RED-EYE.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
The IFTA tax program redistributes tax revenue to states based on your actual miles run. Thus, the truly cheapest fuel can only be found if you subtract federal and state taxes and state surcharges from the pump price to compare. The strategy means that you buy without regard for whether you are paying more at the pump in taxes. IFTA also considers state surcharges, which complicates the fuel buying strategy. Indiana, Kentucky, and Virginia have per-gallon surcharges. Connecticut, Kentucky, New Mexico, New York, and Oregon have per-mile surcharges. While some owner-operators buy only enough fuel to get through surcharge states, this practice can backfire, depending on the actual cost of the fuel in each state. When comparing fuel prices, always remember, pump pride minus taxes equals the real fuel cost. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more detail on this and many other topics.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thank you so much for being here this morning. So yeah, that's the problem. You take into you take into account what the lawyer for Hegseth said, and that isn't good. And like I said, that's the first thing that I saw when I saw what the lawyer said. I went, all right, this isn't good. If that's what your defense is saying,
right?
Whoa! And now the question is, because he claims, when the allegation is that they found semen in the other woman, and then his lawyer responds, there was no non-consensual sex at that point. So you know what happened, the payoff, all this, you just don't need it, because I don't know what the truth is in all of this.
Well, again, it's going to become a trial.
But and that's the point right there. It becomes the trial. And, there may be a little quiet time between now and after Thanksgiving. This thing's going to blow up. And then the beginning of the year, this is going to blow up. The Democrats are going to do every bit of opposition research that they can possibly do.
Oh, yeah.
And I've already heard it. Well, Trump hires people just like him.
Yeah, right.
And that is not what you want when you want issues to be leading everything. And then with Gates, like I said, I read forgot who wrote it for the Federalist.com saying, look, the DOJ found that the woman was incredible. Well, fine, and that's good. I have no idea what happened there either. Well, the fact is when Mike Johnson came out and said, no, I see no reason for the House Ethics Committee to release their report. You can't win that.
Nope.
What you're saying is, okay, we need the allegations going to be flying in the nomination. Nobody can answer those allegations at all. That's not good for us if that's what's being pounded on day in and day out. I also saw in the Wall Street Journal that I sent you it over the weekend. It was an article they wrote on Friday. And the thing is anybody making the count? Anybody doing the head count in the Senate for any of these candidates? Because the Wall Street Journal said anywhere between 12 and 30 people, 30 Republican senators don't want Gates.
Right.
Depending on who you ask, it was between 12 and 30, according to the Wall Street Journal.
Right. And for Gates, you're not going to have any Democrats on board. So
no.
And if you can't bring that head count together, look, I don't know how long they take with this whole thing in terms of contemplating their selections, their nominees, and what happens between now and the beginning of the year. But the beginning of the year, when all the new senators are seated and everything else, the head count's going to come together.
Well, what you're going to have is you're going to have one Democrat after another only asking one question or monologuing for whatever they get, 5 or 10 minutes in the nomination process.
Yep.
And every single question for Gates, or 95% of the questions will be, well, did you do this with this woman? Did you do this with your woman? Same thing for Hegseth. It never stops.
Right.
That's the only question that's going to be. And the fact is does Trump, does the administration now the latest? Well, it's always going to be Trump says he stands fully behind every nominee, including Hegseth. They're always going to say that until they don't.
Yeah, they do until they don't.
Right.
Yep. And we'll see where it goes, because if you can't keep it from that, then what you're doing, you're actually creating, again, a trial that's going to play out. And of course, what you don't want is to lose the confidence in the people that crossed over to vote for you for the first time, because that sets the tone then for the midterm and everything else. And you don't need this. I mean, you got to ask yourself, are any of these nominees the hill to die on? After all that you've been through, if you're Trump, I don't believe they are. So that's it. I mean, that's what it comes down to. Those trials play out like a trial. I mean, it's going to be a media trial.
Oh, yeah, because it's about sex or sexual assault.
Well, and
partying and
yeah, and the left is going to throw everything they can at every nominee anyway. But you're walking in with this stuff the moment they were nominated, and you don't need that, because it only gets bigger from here. It only gets louder from here. This is about Trump, not any of them. This is about him and his administration.
Right. It's about
let's not make this about, well, they should fight to clear their name. The nomination process isn't the place for that.
And this is about, everything should be about moving Trump's agenda.
Yep.
And if it gets you away from that, I don't know how you win it. I don't know how you get the votes.
I don't know
how you.
We didn't see the votes there for Matt Gaetz. We knew that that was going to be problematic. And then if those reports over the weekend are accurate, it's not going to come together And that head count alone may doom that nomination.
Well, I guess here would be the question. Let's say nothing changes in Hegseth, then it's the he said, she said, but everything that we know so far.
Mm-hmm.
Do you lose 4 votes in the Senate? I think you do. Based on what his lawyer has said.
Yeah. I think that's
not
quite, I think that's quite
not even
possible,
the allegation,
yes.
but what his lawyer said.
Right.
I think you lose.
Right.
4 votes.
Right.
You're not going to get any Democrat votes.
No.
I don't believe.
No.
But that's the challenge.
Mm.
On our website, RedEyeRadioshow.com. Show info with stations, podcasts, and more. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. And the other thing is what and I guess we have implied this, but the other thing is when you have these hearings, what you want to be promoting, especially from your own side, is the things that you're going to do, the problems that were caused by Democrats. And the fact is, everybody knows the problems that were caused by Democrats. We know it already.
Yeah.
We understand why you have to have a purge in so many of these departments. We understand the new word disruptor, but and the fine line that you've got to do in these these different departments,
mm-hmm.
which are disrupt, get rid of, and still run the department.
Yeah.
Right. It's something, I don't know the last time something like this was tried. It's hard to get to this point, but you need to start it out with the promotion every single day with your cabinet members out there. And when every single question, you can't put Hegseth out there right now.
No.
Every single question is going to be, well, what happened here? Well, she claimed this. Why did you pay off? Why didn't you fight it? Why did you, that's what it starts. Well, and when you look, like I said, his problem is what his lawyer said. Anybody can throw out allegations, but when your lawyer comes on and says, well, here's what happened, and yeah, he paid her off because he was afraid, and yeah, he was really, really drunk. She was sober, and both admitting that, one said a sexual assault, a rape, and the other saying, admitting that sex happened, but it wasn't a rape.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're like, okay, what are the police aren't going to release it? When you have the lawyer say as much as the lawyer has said, and then these allegations keep coming out, and I'm telling you, they're going to get worse and worse and worse, or if not worse, repeated over and over again so they sound worse.
Yeah, right. And the campaign that became the transition team at Trump headquarters really appeared that they were hitting the ground running, which is what you want. In fact, you need, because you're limited on time. 4 years probably ain't going to be near long enough to get it done. And they knew that. Well, this stops you on 3 major fronts. Between Hegseth and Gates, you're talking the Department of Defense and the Department of Justice, and then Health and Human Services with RFK Jr.
The biggest department that exists.
Right.
Everything about healthcare.
So where do you go then? Now everything is about those picks. And nothing can be about promoting what your agenda is. And that's going to last until, well, if they stay in, if they don't withdraw from the nominations, then that's going to stay in through the hearing, through each of the hearings. That becomes the story. And when you win the way that he did, everything should be about your agenda as you promised it. And now it won't be.
Well, how do you get them out there promoting what they
can't.
believe anywhere.
You can't.
On any Sunday morning news show, you can't.
can't.
The only thing that's going to be talked about is, for Hegseth is this allegation that his lawyer's response is a horrible response. You're like, oh, my God.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure they're not pleased inside of Trump Tower with the response from the lawyer, because the lawyers will see you paid her off. You did that. Okay. Mm-hmm. Don't need this right now.
Right. Well, everything again that Trump has had thrown at him and that he's been through. And now this is going to be your battle? None of these nominees, none of them are the hill to die on. They just aren't. And it has to be about your agenda. It has to be keeping that momentum going into the new year so that you can build that consensus, because you won't have a consensus on these votes. That's a given. You just won't. And you've got to build a consensus on your agenda. Not only building or keeping the confidence in the American people that voted for you, but also that confidence from your own party.
Well, the thing that I want from the nomination process is there to be no other nothing else to talk about except the issues and or your qualifications based on your education, management experience, management style, and then to throw it back in the face of the Democrats. If every question from the Democrats is on a sexual assault scandal, you can never get there.
Yeah.
Because that's what you want to do. You find people that can communicate as Trump has done, and then these people go and they attack the opposition.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a great opportunity to do that with Hegseth. I don't know if that's possible now. I don't believe it's possible. I don't know how he continues on this, because it's going to be the only question that reporters are going to be asking him, because we don't know. Because the question, was it a rape or was it not a rape? We know sex happened. We know there was a payoff to keep her quiet. Well, where the hell do you go with that? And that's from the lawyer. That's from his lawyer. That's not from the I set out what the allegation is. The allegation from the one side, it was rape. The other, no, it was consensual, but I paid it off, as the lawyer for Hegseth, had said over the weekend. That's not good.
No, none of this works in your favor. And again, look, if the head count's not there already for Gates, I think that thing is going to, end the way it might naturally end. And I don't know when that would be. I suspect if that head count doesn't change, if it's accurate, that it's at least 12 Republicans that are not on board for a yes vote for Gates, that he'll withdraw before the end of the year.
I don't know if that was a head count or that was just asking a Senate source, how many do you think?
Right. Yeah.
Because if it was a head count, I would expect that source story would be everywhere. They've taken a head count and it's not there.
Right.
The Republicans, if that would leak out.
Mm-hmm.
You know why that would leak out? Because there would be Republicans that would want that leaked out that don't like.
Yeah.
Especially on Gates. They would, because that's what the story was on
Well,
Gates.
you want it out of the way and behind you. You want it as far behind you as you can get by the time you actually get to the new year. And if it's not going to come together, you want this thing over now.
Yeah, it's it just what a mess. What a mess. And like I said, then all of a sudden with the Hegseth over the weekend, and even yesterday when more information came out, you're like, okay, now this highlights not only the Gates thing, but it also brings when it was gone, it brings RFK Jr. and his, quote, non-sexual affair with that other woman, not his wife during the campaign.
On top of all the other issues that come along with RFK Jr.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly what you don't want.
Right.
And the Democrats have a field day with it. See?
Yeah.
This is the kind of man Trump hires. We
Right.
all know. We all know where it's going, right?
Right. Yep. Look, none of us want the establishment GOP, and we certainly don't want an establishment cabinet. None of us want that. I was very happy to see that at the convention this year for the Republicans, you didn't have the establishment presence on stage during prime time, and that was a good thing.
I want a disruptor who can manage, who has nothing in their closet.
I want the transition team to properly vet if they're not already. It's hard for me to believe that they're not. But if all of this is out there.
Who had that story?
CNN.
Okay.
And if it's already out there, then it tells me that then that's accurate. If his attorney is saying that over the weekend, then it wasn't properly vetted.
No. Yeah.
And this story was, again, a source story. I trust nothing from any of the media. We're trying to put this puzzle together and things that don't add up. Well, the things that didn't add up actually was the story I saw sometime over the weekend, Friday or Saturday. When did I see this? Hold on a second. When is the dateline on this? All right, so it was updated Friday evening over at CNN.com. Let me see if I can get to the, hold on, part about Wiles. But the nature of this is about Hegseth. But the nature of the allegations caused incoming Chief of Staff Susie Wiles to question Hegseth during a call on Thursday, a source told CNN. Wiles asked Hegseth if there was any other issue the team should be aware of moving forward. Hegseth wasn't ever vetted by an outsider firm. This is outside firm. This is what they do. They hire an outside firm before he was announced. Wow. What? If that's accurate, and it seems like it is with everything we're learning over the weekend about this situation, then are you going to? What are you going to do? Hire defense attorneys now? And
you're right, because
one person.
Because if the defense attorney for Hegseth had told them this is our defense, I guarantee they would not have nominated.
Exactly. He might be completely innocent. I don't know. It's not about whether he's innocent or not.
It's that should a nomination process, when you're trying to put forth an agenda, be a trial on the candidate based on sexual assault allegations that he admitted that he paid her to keep her quiet.
Right.
Where the lawyer admitted that he.
And it's also about a reset on whoever is doing the vetting inside your transition team.
Now,
how are you go? What's that process like?
And I know you made the case that, well, yeah, I paid her off because I knew this thing could blow up and I didn't need it, but I didn't do anything. Sorry. Next. That's
not something Trump needs to be dealing with.
Right.
If Hegseth believes he needs to deal with that to clear his name and all of that, then that's on him. It shouldn't be on Donald Trump.
866-98-RED-EYE.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Oh, my, this is funny. Elon Musk posted this 9 hours ago. You ready for this? Which one would do a better job of deciding interest rates? The Federal Reserve or a magic 8-ball?
Magic 8-ball all day.
The magic 8-ball wins this X poll, 82.5% to 17.5.
Yeah, exactly.
Just guess.
Yep.
Oh, my.
Yep.
Oh, that's funny. Coming up, we'll hear from Trump's nominee for energy secretary. Wow.
Yeah.
That's a disruptor. Let's find a guy, energy department. All right, who's the best in fracking?
Exactly. Chris Wright. Look, I think there needs to be again, we've talked about it for years, a long-term energy plan that says we're going to go after everything that's available to us here. And we have in our reserves in the ground more than anybody. Let's do that. Let's expand wealth through expanding traditional energy sources and the mining of which. That has to be done, but it has to be done with cooperation on Capitol Hill. And let's see if they get to a long-term policy. Look, Chris Wright, if he makes it through the nomination process, Department of Energy, a great move. But behind that, there needs to be help from Congress in setting a long-term energy plan into place.
Because the thing is, if it's only going to be 4 years, you're not going to have energy companies want to.
Nope.
If they think it's going to reverse again, they're not going to jump on the Trump bandwagon.
It's why they haven't invested in ways that they, you would think that they would invest, because of, again, the changeover. Every 4 to 8 years, they have to change what they're doing. We need to make it permanent. We're going after what we have in the ground. And that's going to be that. We'll see if Congress can get that done.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across the USA, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thank you for being here.
Hello.
Hi. You want to hear from Trump's nominee for energy secretary?
All right, let's hear from him.
Here he is.
All right.
So energy matters. It matters for human lives. It matters for human well-being. It matters for low-income people and social mobility, low-income people to come up. When you hear crazy stuff today, check it out, dig a little deeper. Hurricanes are not growing. That's in the IPCC report. Tornadoes are actually on the decline. Floods, droughts, all of these things you hear ceaselessly, they just simply aren't so. It isn't even controversial that they're not so. But media, politicians just continually abuse these facts. And I'll end with one last fact, because anxiety is growing among kids. I'm sure everyone has seen that. 20% of kids go to bed at night worried about climate change. Your chance of dying from extreme weather today is greater than 95, has been reduced by more than 97% over the last century. There's just an absolute plummeting from 500,000 people a year dying from extreme weather to less than 10,000 the last couple of years, while the world population has quadrupled. So facts matter, human liberty matters, bottom-up social organization has always been the way to a better world. Let's resist this force of top-down control that's not benefiting humans except those in government.
Trump's nominee for Energy Secretary Chris Wright.
Yeah, look, we talk about the expansion of wealth and what it will take to get people's buying power back to where it needs to be. We're not going to see prices come down in the way that it would happen in true deflation, which really has only happened once in American history during the Great Depression, because if it does happen, it happens for the worst of reasons. And then you look at, all right, then what will be the answer? The answer is to expand everyone's buying power. They're the expansion of wealth. The expansion of wealth doesn't mean that just the wealthy get more. It means everybody gets more. It means that there is a greater buying power for every family and greater leverage, which means ultimately you get to make the decision in your life more and more, which when you have that kind of greater financial independence, then you get to make those choices. And you certainly aren't faced with the choices of, do I pay the electric bill or do I buy the back-to-school stuff my kids need? This has been going on for far too long, where the left has been getting away with lying and lying and lying and taking more of your money to fulfill their agenda, which is based on lies. The lies of the world is going to end inside of a decade, that we have to switch everything over the next 10 years or the world will end.
It was a lie.
It was a lie.
It is a lie.
It is a lie, and they've done this time and time again. They've been doing this for decades and decades and decades, and what it means is greater taxation and greater expenses for your family over and over again. And this is before we even talk about the overspending and the over-response to COVID. This is a type of taxation that hurts, as he just pointed out in that audio, hurts the poor and the middle class the most, because if you, we need to, climate change, it's number one, and you agree and you shake your head, well, they're going to bobblehead that way all the way through Congress, all the way up to the top when the left is in charge, and that means you're paying more.
Well, not only does that you're paying more, this story out over the weekend, hundreds of millions of Americans risk experiencing power shortages this winter.
There you go.
If weather conditions are harsh, according to a new report published by the North American Electric Reliability Corporation. They are a power grid watchdog. Nearly all residents of the Northeast, Texas, and Midwest could face energy shortfalls in the event of a colder than usual winter. They report the lack of grid reliability is driven largely by growing electricity demand, as well as the replacement of coal-fired and older natural gas-fired generators with energy-limited resources such as solar power. The report says foreseeable extreme cold temperatures have the potential to push the existing natural gas supply infrastructure to maximum capacity. Serving winter load is becoming more challenging and complex as coal-fired and older natural gas-fired generators retire and are replaced by variable and energy-limited resources. End of quote. Who the hell has been screaming that for the last 20 years right here on Red Eye Radio?
Yep. And
almost word for word what we have said.
Right. And we have the same type of organization, ERCOT, here in Texas. Well, listen, be careful. There could be brownouts and blackouts today because it's summer and it's hot in Texas. None of this should be happening. None of this should be happening.
Nope. But it's what we voted for, really, especially on the federal level, California and the state level. And California voters still want expensive energy. They voted for it again. Not, we understand, not the 40%, but the other 60%. It's really, this is the one thing I don't understand. This is a disconnect that you and I have talked about before. It's like, well, people know who they're going to vote for. They may know the personality they're going to vote for. Clearly, you could see in these blue states that passed referendums that were absolutely conservative referendums.
Yeah.
It was just like, you're like, what?
Yep.
Well, then why are you voting? Why are you voting for Harris? If you're voting against this, why are you voting? She would do the opposite.
Yep.
It's like there's this disconnect where they still haven't looked, and this is where we have said, it never ends with the Republican Party. You've got to communicate effectively each and every day on the issues because that's where you win. But still, if you win on the issues, you've got to repeat it 1 billion times.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm exaggerating. 1 trillion times.
Exactly.
Because 1 billion isn't enough. Think about this. Think about how Democrats have been able to promote lies for such a significant period of time and are still doing the same thing.
Yep.
Now they're, now over the weekend, I'll play one of the audio cuts. I think it's Jen Psaki. This whole transgender thing, they're making a big deal out of it. Come on, how many men are really? They're trying to justify it. They cannot back off the insanity of the things that they believe because they have nowhere else to go. They have always been about victim-oppressor relationship and identity politics, which is judging people by groups and not as individuals. When you do that, you continue to divide people in your party. You can't continue. I would like to have this discussion with Democrats. How the hell do you think you can continue if you keep dividing people? And
Right.
if you want to see it, you may hate it if you're a Democrat, but Trump united America to vote for him on what? The issues.
Yep.
The issues.
Yep. And their identity politics, rule number one is to divide.
Yeah.
Over and over again.
If that's what your goal is, a political party, it's impossible to grow your base.
Yep.
How do you grow your base? If you keep saying, oh, no, you're a new oppressor. You're a new oppressor. Wait a minute. Blacks are misogynists. Hispanics are racist and misogynist. That's it. Joy Behar. No, misogyny. Oh, misogyny. Misogyny.
That sounded more like Whoopi.
Oh, my God. You see Whoopi in the bakery
Oh, yeah.
in Staten Island?
Yeah.
Did you see the press conference they held? The borough president came out there. All these people. I mean, it was quite impressive. It's like our businesses, we don't discriminate against anyone.
Right.
We need everybody to come in and do our business. Whoopi's wrong, and then she's trying to do some kind of well, somebody else called afterwards and didn't use my name. You're lying.
Uh-huh.
She got caught in a lie.
Yeah,
she
of
got
course.
burned big time. And the bakery said, no, we had a machine that went down when you called. We could care less who you are. We serve everybody.
Right. Right.
Because you know why? Because if you're a smart business person, you realize cutting off half your potential customer base in retail is probably a bad idea when you're a small business owner.
Probably. But everything's got to be based in that.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
They're not going to change. But there it is right there. I mean, any idiot could figure out solar and wind. Remember when Biden said it? We're going to run. Everything will be solar and wind, solar and wind. And finally, after he became president, his administration had to tell him, somebody inside, hey, come here. You got to throw in nuclear.
Right.
Because solar doesn't work when it's dark and wind doesn't work when there's no wind. So you got to have something in there. So you got to at least show them the bone of nuclear, even though we really don't want to do it. But that's how idiotic people were like, oh, yeah, yep. Yep. Well, Biden says we can run the entire grid on solar and wind.
Well, and this normalization of these, it starts with these warnings. Listen, you need to know if the weather gets extreme in the winter. You mean cold? Yeah, or as we call it, extreme. You mean cold? And there could be brownouts and blackouts. If it gets extreme in the summer, you mean hot? Yeah. And there's going to be brownouts and blackouts. You should do without things. Remember, right after signing the mandate on EVs in California, Newsom had to go out and purchase extra electricity because he came out and said it was going to be hot in California, like it is in the summer. He said, don't charge your EVs this afternoon. During the afternoon hours, don't be charging your EVs. And got such pushback, they had to go to another source, another co-op to get the energy. This is the ridiculous world we live in today, and it's not necessary at all. We have everything we need. We have everything we need and then some. We have everything we need and more, in fact, enough to sell to the rest of the world. We can open up shop. We're the kings, and we should act like it. We should be the ones expanding wealth, not only expanding wealth, but also setting the tone. We don't have to deploy to every skirmish, and the global market doesn't have to respond to every foreign radical who says they want to wipe Israel off the map when there is a jump in oil prices. Europe. Why is Europe doing any business with Russia? Why is the U.S. doing any business with Russia? All of this is ridiculous. And hopefully, Chris Wright is an indication that this is going to be a great focus. Because it's going to take more than just the energy secretary to get this done.
Grid operators have requested the EPA nix the power plant rule in order to protect long-term energy dependability, with the 4 major regional operators filing a brief in support of red states' legal challenges against the rules, stating that it would jeopardize the grid's ability to reliably meet America's energy needs. The Democrats are attempting, and have been for the last 20 years, and even with Republicans that jumped on board for a while. Remember? Mm-hmm. Newt Gingrich was one of the first. We have long memories. You may not like it if you're a Republican. He's one of the first ones to jump on and said, well, we can't win this because it's such a huge issue, so we need to find a way to go along with it. Mm-hmm. No, because this is what you get right now.
Yep.
You got the major grid operators telling the federal government, people aren't going to have electricity. That's the kind of idiots that so many people have voted to put into office in the United States. They're creating the problem of ensuring that you don't have the energy that you need.
Yep.
That's why you need disruptors.
Right. And look, it's a massive task, but it also has to include, again, bringing Congress together, Republicans, to get things done in a permanent way. I'm hopeful that's the direction we're going to be headed.
866-98-RED-EYE.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. You know, we remember when we had told you that it was a year ago that Texas, Texas passed the law to spend a ton of money on natural gas plants, basically backup plants.
Mm-hmm.
These would be backup plants that would need to be subsidized because they won't be running all the time.
Right.
And it's in order to ensure that we have enough power in the state of Texas when the wind isn't blowing. Because especially when you think about it with Texas, there's so much wind power.
Oh, yeah.
Some solar,
yeah,
but
sure.
wind when the wind's blowing with all the windmills they have, whatever, in West Texas and the hill country, whatever, it can, I think, take care of 60% if the wind's at peak. But when it's cold out, it goes to zero. You need backups. We didn't have the proper backup, didn't have the proper winterizing of a lot of the natural gas transportation systems and plants. Why? Because the federal government had told Texas and told everybody, we're shutting down the natural gas plants. No long-term capital investment is going to happen when you know that's coming down the pike, which is the problem that Trump has, being in only for 4 years. How do you change these things, and how do you get private sector involvement really to change what's going on if they believe it could change in 3 years? Nobody's going to want to be involved in capital investment if they believe the Democrats will be back in power, unless you put so many votes on them now and the public rejects them in 4 years.
Right. Yeah. You have to. You really have to do this long term, and you're going to need Capitol Hill to be on your side. You got to build a consensus on that, which means in the Senate you're going to have to get at least 7 Democrats on your side, if not a few more.
Mark Christie, a top power grid regulator, wrote a letter to Congress in August talking about the EPA's new rule that they put into effect. Remember, after Texas said, okay, we're going to bring in a base load of all these natural gas plants, then the EPA came in and said, no, you can't do that. If the EPA's new power plant rule survives court challenge, it will force the retirements of nearly all remaining coal generation plants in the United States and will prevent the construction of vitally needed new combined cycle baseload gas generation. Christie wrote, this loss will be catastrophic. And that's where we're headed. And so even after the state of Texas said, we can't let this happen. We cannot have it. We need to do it. Where the fact is taxpayer dollars could go into it. Premiums will go up. Taxpayer dollars will go into it to have a set of a number of natural gas plants that only exist, that have to be subsidized in order to be there when all the other subsidized electricity generation plants aren't able to, run when there's no wind or run when there's no sun.
Right.
I mean, it's complete insanity when you think we don't have to subsidize anything, and we end up with the Democrats in charge and the liberals in charge subsidizing everything.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
It is crazy. And, you get, even with wind power, those turbines actually go into protection mode when it gets cold. They have to. So there's an oil that keeps it warm rather than them producing energy. Everything is into basically preserving the operation of the windmill. So over and over again, it's been proven you can't rely on this because you can't predict the wind and you can't predict how much the sun is going to give you. Look, Arizona, all right, solar farms in Arizona. Where else? It's going to have to, this is the ridiculous nature of all of this is like dealing with children. It's like they built out a wish list. We wish for this to be the case and then sold people on it. Wow.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Whew. All right. A few hours into the show, it's like, take a deep breath for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody wrote, Republicans shouldn't care about Democrat sexual allegations. They're not just Democrat. The problem with Hegseth is it's what his lawyer said.
Right.
And remember, when John Tower was taken down, people forget about this. When John Tower, the last candidate, and he was Secretary of Defense, he was taken down because of just really the allegations, the allegations of drinking and womanizing. It's like, you're Secretary of Defense. You can't have that.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot put yourself into certain situations when you're Secretary of Defense. When you look at it and you look at the story, you look at the story from even from the lawyer for Heg Smith, and you're like, oh, okay, you're Department of Defense. Do you drink too much? Can you be put in blackmail situations because of your drinking? Sorry, those are the things they look at when you get up to that power level inside the government. And Republicans will look at that.
Yep.
And that's the problem that you have when you get up to, especially Department of Defense. Because that's what took Tower down. And from what I remember, there was nothing verifiable for Tower at all.
Right.
It was just all allegations that really run. It's like, sorry. But the fact is, because he was a member of the Senate, they knew about it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That was the problem. That was the claim that these senators, we know he has a problem with drinking.
Right.
And he said, am I an alcoholic? No. Have I created problems with drinking? Yes. I mean, Tower said that. Well, good God, you can't do that. And that's what the lawyer did for Hegseth here.
Mm-hmm.
Hegseth, excuse me.
Yeah, it's I really don't care what the Democrats are going to do what they're going to do. They're going to be against, the nominees anyway. It's about how the process is going to play out. Because it turns into a trial. And with a number of Republicans that are already greatly concerned. And there is no win in the end. Tell me how you get to 51 from where we are now. That's going to be a problem. And I really don't, again, on top of that, you've got the momentum coming off a historic win. Everything right now should be about Trump and his agenda and nothing else.
Right.
Them throwing the whole thing in the liberal media, a pro-fracker is going to be, and, I come from a long line of pro-frackers. A pro-fracker he's nominated for energy secretary.
Duh.
Yep.
You mean the thing that Harris said she won't ban?
Exactly.
I mean, where do you go with
right.
it? I mean, it's like,
and so, what the Democrats are going to do, I'm not worried about. How this becomes the story instead of the focus on Trump's agenda is a great concern. But ultimately, if you can't get the head count on your side, then what are you doing? And, I look at that source story out of CNN. I don't trust anything certainly out of CNN, but out of any of the media, especially when they say sources say. All right. Now you've pretty much lost most of me. But then when the story comes together by the end of the weekend, I saw that on Friday evening, the story comes together by the end of the weekend, and we're hearing from Hexas defense attorney. And it's like, well, it sounds like they didn't do the proper vetting. What is the transition team doing when it comes to vetting? And Matt Gaetz is these situations were known except for what was going to be released in the House Ethics Committee report.
Right. We don't know what
we
fully
don't
is in
know.
there, right.
Something is leaked and it's reported to be true and part of the report. We don't know that for sure. But the question is, who's doing the vetting? To what extent are they going through the process that you need to go through? Yes, you have to find the fighters, but they've got to be worthy. In fact, more to that point, I can't trust they'll be focused on the fight. And I'm on your side. We need people that we know can get the job done. It's going to take, I don't know, you're going to have to find somebody who can move mountains in terms of weeding out all the problems at the DOJ. But defense secretary, our enemies need to know there are no distractions. And that the person coming in means business. First and foremost, because they know the commander-in-chief does, he's proven it. We need somebody in line with that. And you really can't get around that. I mean, I don't know what solves this. He could be completely innocent. He just might be. I don't know. I can't tell you. That's not the point. The trial, him clearing his name, is on him. It's not on Donald J. Trump. The same with Matt Gaetz. RFK Jr. is a whole different, man, that's a whole different cartoon.
I know that.
Wow.
The bear, the whale, and the
seriously
non-sexual affair.
Let's cut off the head and take it home with us.
And the non-sexual affair. Well, like I said, I didn't think the RFK Jr. thing would come in, but it's going to come in now. What was going on between him and his wife. Now that Democrats believe they have a pattern, they're going to be pounding it. And as long as, because you may say, because the person who contacted us said, well, I'm sick of Republican falling for Democrat allegations. Well, the problem is the DOJ report, as Federalist.com pointed out, said she had no credibility. The one woman for the Gaetz thing, we don't know what's in the bipartisan ethics committee report that's supposed to come out. As long as that exists there, Democrats are going to scream for that to be released. And when both Jim Jordan and Mike Johnson both said it shouldn't come out. Well, then they're being, again, the opposition saying, we thought you cared about transparency.
Right.
You said you cared about transparency. It's not there. You don't need this. You don't need the fight over what the fight is about.
Exactly.
Because it does not move forward Donald Trump's agenda.
No, it doesn't. It just
that's
doesn't.
the problem. That's the problem that you have. And again, I look at the worst case as of right now is Hegseth because of what his lawyer said.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I had to go back when I was reading. I had to go back like 2 or 3 times. All right, is this his lawyer?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, this is the defense?
Mm-hmm.
This isn't good.
Right.
And so again, if everything was just allegations, Democrat allegations with nothing else involved, just Adam Schiff saying it without any evidence to back it up, which again, he's done before. The problem is with Hegseth, it's his own lawyer and what his own lawyer has said. It's the fact that the allegations aren't coming from Democrats, but the woman at a Republican convention and the other 2 women, I'm assuming, weren't Democrats that know about the situation that happened there if they were there. That's the problem there. And with Gates, you can say, the Democratic allegations, but what you don't know about is the bipartisan ethics committee report on him and what Republicans had to say. So that's where that falls apart. If it was simply an allegation based on nothing, the public's used to that with Trump. You're a Hitler. Doesn't go anywhere.
Right.
And so and again, bringing up what had happened again with John Tower back then, the last person to not be confirmed. And what was it? His womanizing and drinking.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know, again, on either one of those, how you get to 51.
Right. Now, that was what, 89, 88? I mean, that was a long time ago, so standards may have changed, but the fact is you don't move forward with the Trump agenda when the only questions Democrats will ask is the questions that haven't been answered and right now can't be answered.
Right.
So it leaves suspicion all the time.
Going after Chris Wright for being pro-fracking. Let's vet all the left media can vet all that out. That's great. People can do their own research and why do we want oil and natural gas to be increased? Why do we want? Okay, we can have that discussion. In fact, that's exactly what I want. Let's put some attention on that.
Yeah, I want them to say he's pro-fracking.
I want that out there. I can't tell you what happened in either of the case with Hegseth or with Matt Gaetz. I can't tell you. I don't know. I hope that they are innocent. It means there were no victims. I truly hope they're innocent. Clearing their name is going to be on them, not on Donald Trump. And everybody knows this. By the way, Trump knows this. I can't tell you what decision he's going to make or what decision his team will make between now and then. But if you can't bring it together, if you're nowhere close to 51 on either of those, then I don't know why you would keep up the fight.
Well, the transition team has to be looking at this going, my God, we're still a week and a half away from Thanksgiving.
Exactly.
This thing's going to be pounded every single day.
It's the story. It's something for the media to chew on and also do their own investigations on and find other allegations and everything else. Because it sounds like they didn't do their proper vetting. It sounds like the transition team didn't do their vetting.
That would be amazing if they did.
It's impossible for me to believe. Yeah. But that's what it sounds like right now.
Schiff was on CNN yesterday calling Gaetz a child sex trafficker.
Right.
Allegations of child sex trafficking. How do you win that?
Right.
That's the problem.
All of the focus will be on two individuals instead of on Donald Trump.
866-90 Red Eye.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I guess some Democratic talking points are coming out now for the pundits, because it's John Oliver and Jen Psaki almost saying the same thing over the weekend.
Yeah.
That the Democrats need to continue, doubling down on the transgender, the radical transgender movement.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, one of the things they're saying is, well, it's only a very small number of people.
Yeah, right.
John Oliver's saying there's no evidence that men in sports can do better than women. I mean, it's just like they've doubled down on the delusion, and Jen Psaki doing the same thing. We'll get to that coming up here in just a little bit, because you're just shaking your head going, what the hell? And you see that Alvin Bragg, the lead candidate to win again as DA of New York.
All right, then.
See that one? I love this. I love this. So where is it? The Democrats have lost their minds, veteran political consultant Hank Scheinkoff said of the DA's supporters. Bragg's reelection will tell the rest of the country that New Yorkers are crazy and we don't punish people who endanger police officers and citizens. You think about it, with Letitia James and him, who would want to do business in New York?
Well, that's the thing, is that they set that tone over and over again. And again, if he's reelected, all right, great. That's the way it will go. I can't imagine being a company right now that's operating in New York. What are you going to do? I mean, it's only a matter of time before they come after you. Anything and everything. Wow. This is what the people want. It's exactly what the people want. This is what the people of New York want.
Yeah.
And you choose that path. The problem...
The majority of voters.
Yeah.
Right.
The problem that I have with it, or the greatest concern, is that the mindset isn't isolated to one state. That mindset is all over this country. It exists in every state. So wait for it to take off.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here this morning. All right, just give you an example that Democrats, well, have they learned anything from the election and the election loss? Let's hear Neil Cavuto talking, I believe this was last Friday, to James Clyburn of South Carolina. Democrat right. James Clyburn. Here we go. All right.
But now they're seeing it.
But how are we seeing it? He's not president yet. I mean, are you visiting another Hitler? Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying. I said the 1930s in Germany.
Yes, you did.
And, of course, and we can go to Mussolini in Italy. These things.
So you don't think that's a little hyperbolic?
No, you may think so.
Okay.
Not even a little.
No, not backing off at all. Trump is Hitler and Mussolini and you name it. And then I want to play this. This seemed to be the talking points because this is almost similar. I can't play what John Oliver said because there was too much cursing, but this is almost, I couldn't believe how close it was. As if, it's one of those things where you would have said the same thing if you were with me at the time. Oh, these are the talking points have gone out.
Yeah.
Right. How are they going to fight the radical transgender movement? It's not really a big deal.
Yeah, right.
They're exaggerating they're not they won't argue the morality of what they're doing.
Right.
They're simply saying it isn't happening as much as Republicans are saying that it happens, which of course has never been one of our arguments ever.
No.
We've never talked about how many. We've talked about why it's wrong and those women who are victims because of it, and how we saw it rapidly spread over the last couple of years, as we saw, in women's swimming and in other sports. But here's Jen Psaki on this on MSNBC over the weekend. Here we go.
There's obviously a lot of soul searching right now going on within the Democratic Party, and that's a good thing. But what I worry about is that in the course of all that soul searching, some Democrats might reach the wrong sweeping conclusions. And there are a lot of issues that fall into that bucket. But one in particular that stuck out to me is transgender rights. Republicans spent hundreds of millions of dollars on anti-trans ads this election cycle, including one that showed Vice President Harris talking about government funding for gender-reaffirming care for prisoners and detainees. If that sounds like a particularly obscure issue, it is, because it applies to a tiny group of people. And it's also a policy that, by the way, was in place during the first Trump presidency.
Which Trump was against, by the way, just so you know. That's part of where that's one of the reasons that they want to clear out everybody in all these different departments. Let's continue.
Another one of the lines that ran over and over again in those ads and throughout right-wing media is this idea that America is faced with a crisis of boys playing in girls' sports. Now, these ads created this perception that the issues of trans kids playing sports was dominating schools across the country.
Nobody ever said that.
Nope.
Nobody ever said that. She's making that up. That's the argument. I'm going to throw in basically a straw man that doesn't exist.
Right.
What we have said is if it continues the way that it has continued, women will continue to be denied their right to play sports from men who are stronger.
Right.
And then John Oliver was saying there's no evidence to show that there's any difference between men and women in sports. So they're just doubling down on all of it.
Yes, why not?
They're not saying, okay, we've learned something. It's like, how can we spin this another?
Yeah.
Well, you know something? Okay. Let's not talk about whether the radical transgender movement of kids having surgery or taxpayers paying for inmates to have surgery, or let's not talk about the morality of women being denied their place in sports by men who wish to play women's sports. Let's just say it's not happening as much as they're saying.
Right. It's not that big of a problem.
And again, lie about that, because I don't know anybody who has said that the majority of sports, as she said there, I don't know anybody who said that. Do you?
No.
I don't know anybody on the Republican side that she creates
straw man argument.
Straw person argument. So that's where they are. It's really weak. They can't win the issue, so they're going to talk about they were exaggerating the frequency of the issue.
Yeah.
Well, I don't care.
Yeah.
If I go 100 in a 60-mile-an-hour zone once.
Look, it was one school zone. Come on, officer. I'm just one car of many.
She's so bad. She really is. She's just so. I mean, it's almost as if it's not. It's they're children. They have children's minds going, okay, mom told me this. All right, how can I fight this? Okay, I can't beat it. Mom is right on the actual issue. Let me claim that my mother is claiming that I did these things wrong this many times and I didn't do it that many times. So let's talk about the frequency.
Right.
Shut up.
Well,
God, just the dumbest thing ever.
Again, it's like saying, look, there's no need in fighting for just a handful of victims.
Right.
Really?
See, we understand, as she did not address, that every member of the Democrat House that voted for the equity bill voted yes to have men play women's sports.
Right.
That's the problem. No, it didn't go from nothing to everyone.
Right.
But it's expanding rapidly, and we saw what happened. Again, does this mean then that sexual harassment in the workplace isn't bad if it doesn't happen as many times as the Democrats claim? Or does each case of sexual harassment stand on its own, and the law should be based on sexual harassment of the individual and not be judged by the frequency that it happens?
Right. Well, I mean, remember the argument when illegal immigrants were committing murder, were accused of doing bad things or committing to the extent of committing murder.
Yes.
Well, yeah, but it happens a lot more with people who are citizens of the U.S. Oh, my bad. Sorry. I guess then we should allow, since they're not in the majority of cases, then we'll just let that go.
Yeah, you're right. That's the exact same thing that, well, but if they weren't here, those crimes wouldn't happen.
Right.
Citizens are allowed to be here. You can't change that.
Right.
You can change this.
Yeah, and citizens should still face justice if they commit murder.
No. Citizens should. No. I'm becoming radical. I think citizens should be able to get away with murder.
Well, if you listen to their argument here, what are they saying about the victims? There's only a handful of victims.
Right, the victims don't matter.
Sports.
Right. The women victims don't matter.
They don't matter.
The misogyny is okay as long as it doesn't dominate.
Right.
Sports.
Exactly.
By the way, I want to make it clear. Eric and I said a long time ago, the show has officially taken a position against murder. We decided to stand strong on the show one day.
We did. We're fighting.
I can't
We're
remember.
heroes because we're against murder.
Yes, very strongly. We're anti-murder on the show.
That's right.
We've taken that radical stand.
That's right. That's what we stand for.
But as you can see, I mean, they're not going to. That has been. I still think that's a story of the day long term. What are Democrats going to do? Because you can see they're not changing at all. They still believe that they haven't found the way to convince you that their insanity is sane.
Yeah.
That makes sense? Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
They still are like, no, we just... I know the problem is we've pounded the same argument a million times. We need to redefine the argument. No, your position is wrong. You're not going to win it. And that was from both John Oliver and her over the weekend.
Yeah.
I mean, it was almost the same. The only thing he did was he took the step further to say that there's no evidence that, men can dominate women in sports. That was, and he was swearing and cursing and screaming. What builds rage from that?
I think it's an argument tactic. If I just scream and use the F word more, nobody will be able to debate me. Either that, John, or nobody would want to listen to you because you're a child.
I know, man. It really is like you're dealing with children that you set down the argument. They go, okay, let me fry Mom's mind. Mom said I did it 11 times. I only did it 9. That's where I'll get her. And as a child believing, you're actually going to win that argument with Mom.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, this idea that there's no proof that men are stronger than women. You know why? He's hanging around men on the left.
Is that something that we have to straighten out, that it's simply men on the left? Are they the ones that are pulling men on the general male population down in athletic and strength ability?
He surrounds himself with people on the left. So men on the left, That's his experience.
Yeah, but I've seen the new man on the left. They wear camouflage and carry rifles and wear hunting hats backwards or forwards.
Mm-hmm. Right. He's under the hood of a car trying to fix the flux capacitor. Putting oil in the windshield reservoir.
Could you crank that engine? It's cold out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just go full on denial. If you're going to deny science, like someone like John Oliver does, then deny it full on. Right?
Yeah.
From the party of science. Well, John, there's no proof the earth is round. Just make it up as you go along. If you're going to be completely delusional and you're going to deny science, then of course you'd say that.
Yeah, that's only a problem.
Women aren't stronger. The men aren't stronger than women. Well, number one, I stand by my position that it's the men he's hanging out with. That I believe.
Well, that's not the argument. The argument is, are there some women that are better than men? That's not the argument. The argument is in elite institutions of athletics, which range all the way from junior high all the way up through college. That's what we're talking about. And those people still, as we know, the majority of people don't play basketball. The majority of people don't play volleyball. The majority of people don't play football. Only the best athletes in those schools play it. If you get to the best athletes in any type of societal structure out there, and the men are going to be stronger on average than the women playing that sport. End of story. We all know that.
Right.
Women know that.
Yep.
It's not an insult. It's just reality.
Yeah.
And for them to sit there and say, well, but the frequency isn't as high as you said. That's Jen Psaki's argument. For gosh sakes. I mean, I know CNN's
Come on, people on the right. There's not that many victims. There's not enough worth standing up for.
Right. That's the argument.
That's their argument.
Just
Meanwhile, they create victims where there aren't any victims and scream about it all day.
Yeah, wow. I love it. All right. It's going to be this next year is going to be a zoo.
Well, I know. It's typically
be
we get to tap the brakes during the transition time. Thanks a lot, Trump.
And normally it's nice and a little bit relaxed. We can talk about my banana bread.
Yeah.
This is normal time. Banana bread talk would come up. Or
My kids ask me they keep asking me about Thanksgiving. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
My low-carb pumpkin pie I haven't mentioned yet. I mean, it's like there's too much stuff going on.
Yeah.
But Democrats are going to look, they're not going to backtrack on anything. And there's with the radical transgender movement, you heard it there. We talked about energy early on.
Yep.
They're still pushing to have everything run by solar and wind and not have backup gasoline, natural gas power.
Right.
It's pure insanity.
Yep.
They just keep doubling down.
Yep.
That's why I say for Trump to do it in 4 years is a tall task.
Yep. We knew that.
Yep.
And we were right, of course.
866-98 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on speed and space management. Due to safety concerns, many motor carriers have policies that limit or prohibit the use of cruise control. If your motor carrier does allow you to use cruise control, you should only use it in good driving conditions during daylight hours and on roads that have light traffic, few curves or hills, and a consistent speed limit. Never use cruise control when operating in adverse driving conditions, including wet, icy, or slippery roads, during rush hour in heavy traffic or on congested highways, at night, or when you're tired or fatigued. During all of these driving scenarios, you want to be controlling and adjusting your speed as you drive instead of having to suddenly brake if you encounter an obstacle. In the case of a slippery road surface, You want to be able to slow your vehicle by not accelerating instead of using the brakes whenever possible. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. From CNN, famed pollster J. Ann Seltzer will end her election polling operation after her final poll for the Des Moines Register failed to accurately capture former President Donald Trump's strong support in the 2024 election, resulting in a 16-point miss. Seltzer's announcement comes after the Register, in its final poll before Election Day, delivered a bombshell result showing Vice President Harris leading Donald Trump 47-44 among likely voters in that state.
Yeah, it turns out it was more shell than bomb.
Yeah. Trump won 56-43.
Yeah.
She later acknowledged her poll was a big miss. She said when she wrote a piece in the Des Moines Register that she had already decided to retire beforehand.
Okay.
She had told them that after 2024, her contract was up. Well, you didn't make, like a player whose contract is up, and you're really not sure, could I even renegotiate or continue it? When you really blow it in a playoff game, sometimes you can't get that contract again.
Yeah.
Not saying that I have any inside information, just trying to make any type of sports analogy.
It makes it a little tough.
Hey, I can talk about sports now.
Can you?
You said, was it the New York Post who did it? How many of the players are doing the Trump dance?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
my.
Yeah.
Gosh.
That's funny.
Well, you think about it, what a change from Colin Kaepernick. Because remember, Trump was around for Colin Kaepernick. That was what, 2015, 2016, yeah. Trump was around because he commented on it.
Right.
Yep. Well, that's how quickly the turnover is in professional football.
Exactly.
3 to 4 years is it. So
exactly,
you probably had almost 100% turnover.
Yep. Wow.
Observing and analyzing the insanity. Eric Harley and Gary McNamara. Nightly on Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose. If you cannot listen live overnight to one of our many great hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of radio stations that carry our show.
And thank you.
Yeah. So the most response I've gotten this weekend was about the Buffalo-Kansas City game. It's the most I've got from our listeners.
Yeah.
Hey, Gare. I didn't see any of it. I watched the I saw the highlights. You know what I've even started doing when I watch highlights? Because I don't catch many of the games. Sunday is a work day for me, and I'll get into that in a second. But I don't catch many of the games, so I watch the highlights. And, they have, like, the NFL puts out like 2 sets of highlights.
Right.
They put out the highlights of really like every important drive, and that takes about usually anywhere between 10 and 15 minutes. Then they have just the scores for your team.
Yeah.
Those are the highlights I like watching. Nothing negative happens. The game's over. I already know the result. and everything is a positive. But I've really haven't watched, I maybe at the 12 o'clock game for 5 minutes. I really can't watch stuff on Sundays anymore because the toughest day it is for me to sleep is to get back into the show is Sunday. And it's impossible if I start watching, especially, my team. I can't watch it and then go to sleep.
Right.
I can't do it. So, I even tested to see if it worked yesterday because what I did, I worked out like a fiend. I'm changing a little bit my sleep schedule. I used to get up real early on Sunday morning. Now I get up a little bit later. I'm trying to get into because that's the toughest day I've had, trying to catch a nap before I come in is Sundays because that's changing from the weekend,
right,
where I do flip. And so it was probably about, I told everybody probably by 2:45 because it was a 3:25 kickoff for the Bills, Kansas City and Central. And I just told everybody, guys, phone's going off. No, won't be taking any messages. Trying to find some garbage movie. I'd worked out like a fiend. I rode the bike miles upon miles. I was tired, and I said, okay, find some movie, just anything that'll take your mind off it. And I didn't think of it at all. And about 20 after 4, 20, maybe closer to 4:30, something like that. So the game been on for an hour, and I didn't even think about it because I'm watching something else, not looking at my phone. My phone is even in the bedroom. And I went, I wonder what my blood pressure is not paying attention. Totally trying to drown it out. No football. I didn't look at any scores all day. I knew nothing. So I said, because I really feel calm and don't really care, because I don't know. So I really don't care what the score is. Is this really true or do I care? Let me check my blood pressure.
Okay.
116/58 with the 61 pulse.
All right.
It's like, wow, okay, this works. And then I was able to go to sleep. I went to sleep. It was great. Because right now, sleep is more important. You get to be, my younger middle age.
Nope.
Okay.
Try again.
You get to be my age and you still flipping a little bit and, flipping your sleep schedule on the weekends. Sleep becomes the most important thing to you when you can't sleep. And anybody who works a shift,
Yeah.
And I've got it down for, most of the days of the week, and I've just, again, started having problems on Sunday. So it's like, okay, got to cut out football completely. Just can't pay attention. You have to pretend it doesn't exist. And what I found interesting, it was really, I said, I'm pretending the game doesn't exist. And I realized that I, too, if I really work at it and delusionally hypnotize myself, I can convince myself that something really isn't going on that I used to care about that would make me nervous. I think much like Democrats look at the issues out there. Am I going too far?
Maybe.
Okay.
Well, if you don't watch the game, it doesn't exist.
Right. Exactly.
Right?
I didn't watch the game, therefore it doesn't exist. Therefore, my blood pressure was low.
There you go.
And it was, from what I can see, and what a great rivalry. I mean, it really is. The Bills against Kansas City is right now, I think, the best rivalry in the National Football League has been the last couple of years.
Right.
Because the games are all, for the most part, the games are always close, and both quarterbacks have the potential, to deliver at any time, and they both have real solid teams. But, yeah, I'm glad when I saw some of the highlights, I'm like, oh, no. I couldn't have started watching the game and gone to sleep. Just would have been impossible.
Right.
So I realize that I myself can be delusional.
You just make yourself delusional.
Make myself delusional.
Right.
That's how you do it now in this country. So
right.
I'll just pretend there is no game if I'm not watching it.
Right. So the Bills won.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. There was a 30-21.
All right.
Seemed like an exciting. I can't believe that I used to have season tickets and would go, all Sundays to the games and everything else. It's like
that's the Chiefs' first loss, right?
Yeah, it was Chiefs' first loss.
All right.
Yeah, I mean they haven't. I think Chiefs fans. Well, I can tell by Chiefs fans looking at social media afterwards. I mean, I can't. It's like, do you guys know you won 2 Super Bowls in a row and you were 9-0 and finally had 1 loss after 15 wins in a row? Your team is not the Cleveland Browns. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, what? Who are these? Who are these fans? What fans are these? What team is this that these fans are going so crazy in a negative way? And it was all Kansas City fans.
No rioting, from what we understand yet, right?
The what?
Chiefs fans, no rioting after the game.
Oh, God, they've still got this top spot in the AFC.
Well, it doesn't mean they can't riot.
No, I don't think anybody.
I mean, it's the week before Thanksgiving.
No,
you can riot.
I think the network.
You shouldn't.
CBS, whatever it is, the show that's out there. They pick another city. They were out there, so they were doing all the table jumping that the insane Bills Mafia does, where they jump and land on the table.
Mm-hmm.
I never did that. I want to make that clear. I had season tickets for a while. I never did that kind of stuff.
They jump from table to table in the bar? Is that what it is?
No, they jump from trucks, where they're having the, what do you call it? The tailgating.
Mm-hmm.
And they jump off cars and trucks onto, like, the plastic white tables and bust them in half.
Oh, that's in the South. That's what we do every weekend.
Not just for football?
Not from trucks. You could hurt the truck. We do it from roofs.
Okay. And not just for football.
No.
Just
no, for fun.
Just general fun.
For fun. I swear to you, the true story. So I was, probably 10 years old, and I was meeting one family of cousins for the first time. Long story there, but we're meeting we decide we're going to plan a trip to go stay where they live. So we do that, and we go the following summer. My new cousins, they were cousins all along, but my newfound cousins asked me, hey, you want to go jump off the roof? True story. I was like, well, I don't know. What do you mean by that? Which roof and onto what? They had stacked mattresses. They were doing stuntman stuff right there in their own backyard. Wow. 10, 12 years old. And it was fun.
Yeah, we were insane like that, too. We used to jump off the roof of my buddy's house into his pool. And occasionally your foot would catch the edge of the concrete before you hit the pool.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
And yes, I did get a ton of messages also from a lot of our WJR listeners about, all right, the Lions and Bills in the Super Bowl. It's like, whoa. Hold it. Pull back on the reins a little bit here.
No.
We're not even close to the playoffs yet. When you're a Bills fan and you're in the playoffs a lot and never win, you don't jump the gun. Who was I talking to the other day? Oh, yeah, my nephew, or my great-nephew. My nephew was harassing him, saying, you're not a Bills fan yet. You haven't suffered. Because Uncle Gary suffered.
Yeah. A life of suffering.
Yeah, I remember the Bills' first championship, which was the American Football League, 60 years ago, this December 26th. I remember exactly where I was. Then the next year, 65, too, when they beat San Diego. And that was also December 26th of 65. So 59, and then they haven't won anything in 59 years. So it's a long time. So, and that he was trying to explain to my great nephew that you're not really a fan until you suffer the hardest sports disappointments of anybody else in all of professional sports.
Repeatedly,
and then
for
you're
a certain amount of time, too.
Right. Then you're a true Bills fan.
Yeah.
Even though I will say this, when I went golfing the other day, I met a lot of guys that, had Dallas Cowboys hat on. I was wearing the Bills hat. And so I was talking. It's been around for a while, but everybody, the part of the hopelessness for Dallas is the fact that Jerry Jones, and it looks like his son, they're always going to stay general manager.
Yep.
Where every other team changes general managers.
Yep.
After probably a period, even the longest general managers, probably after 8, 9, 10 years is gone, they move into something else.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the problem. That's the hopelessness that I see from every Cowboys fan I meet is we can never change general managers. We can never change the football outlook of this team because the owner wishes to be the general manager.
Right.
And it's like, it goes, that's so disappointing when you look long term. Because if you sit there and you're like, you have problems for 5 years, you go out and get a new general manager and you get a new coach, but you got a new general manager in there. And so drafting's done different. Everything is done different. And so it gives you a little bit of hope.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There is no hope. There is no hope for change.
It's not going to change.
From what I can see from Cowboys fans.
Yeah, it's not going to change.
But I love the one last week when they were asking Jerry Jones about designing the stadium that the sun hits the players in the eyes. And I'm thinking, they're never going to open the roof again because somebody's going to complain the moon is in my eyes. I mean, it's just like,
well, it's the response by Jerry Jones. Well, let's just tear the whole thing down and build a new one. For a minute when I read that, I thought, wait a minute, he might be serious.
I know. I thought the same thing. So he's not kidding, He's not kidding.
That's actually could be in the works.
But
instead of closing the roof, just build a whole new one.
Well, no, the sun comes through whether the roof's open or not. It's that
right.
glass.
Yeah.
It's a glass. I was just saying don't open the roof because the next excuse is the moon is in my eyes.
Right.
But no, the sun gets bad, and it's like then the questioning. Didn't anybody think about that before they spent $1 billion or whatever it was back in 2003, 2004 to build that thing?
Nope.
Did anybody think?
Nope.
Where's the sun this time of day?
They don't care. Doesn't matter.
They cared last week.
Yeah. Doesn't matter.
Oh, my gosh. So much. But I think the best thing is the number of players, and somebody did on social media, all the number of players in the NFL yesterday after scoring a touchdown doing the Trump dance. That could get me back to watching the NFL on a consistent basis.
Yeah. Or just watching the clips of them doing the dance.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, that's the one thing. When I used to have season tickets, you go to a Bills, you're there at 6, 7 in the morning, and you leave in a 1 o'clock game. You don't leave till 7, 8 at night.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the time anymore.
Nope.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. All right. I think I found the Bill Shatner audio cut. You
all right.
Saw that he was on with Bill Maher on his podcast. He doesn't understand what happened.
Mm-hmm.
He has no type of critical thinking skills as the captain of the Enterprise as to why the Democrats lost. It's funny because it's almost as if, I'll play it for you coming up here in a little bit, following the top of the hour. As if Bill Maher wants to go, what are you talking about?
Right. Yeah, but he holds back.
He holds back. Yes, he does.
Yeah.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.